And also, by the way, it's interesting. I'm just reading an article here in the paper. Latest figures show there have been no cases. None. Not one. Not even one of the flu transmitted in Ireland this winter. That's according to the HSE. Now, if you believe that, I don't know. I think we're the bigger fools. Are you telling me there hasn't been one person in this country who's got the flu? Well, certainly none have been recorded, according to the HSE. And a lot of people have said the same thing. And Public Health England even mentioned this a while ago, that with COVID-19, the symptoms are obviously quite similar. And you will ring your doctor and say, I feel like I have the flu, I have a cough, I have a cold, I have the chills, and blah, 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 blah. And your doctor say, okay, I'll send you out for a COVID test. And it will either come back negative or positive. If it comes back negative, you think nothing of it. If it comes back positive, well, then you go down as a COVID case. Even though you may have no symptoms of actual COVID, but you have symptoms of flu, or COVID may not be exasperating your problem, you go down as a COVID case. And I think what we've just done is redefine it, because I find it difficult to believe that what is the biggest problem in every single country in the world from a healthcare point of view every year at the same time, more or less. Well, actually, in Australia it comes first, etc., etc. And in Ireland, this is our flu season, which starts usually end of October right up to the end of February. We're normally in the thick of it now. I remember reading an article from the Irish Examiner from the start of December, which is only a couple of weeks away, saying how many thousand people had been in hospital, how many 25,000 had presented at A&E, and so many, I think it was 90 or something people had been in ICU. I can't remember the exact figure. And that was 2017, 2018, when they had a particularly bad flu season. Every year, 400 or 500 people died from the flu. And in saying that, we only define flu deaths as those who actually have the flu and go on then probably to get pneumonia and sadly pass away. We don't define flu deaths the way we define COVID deaths. Like, we would never say somebody died from some other disease, but it was flu related. We would never say that. We've never said it. We never mass test for flu either. We don't mass test populations for the flu. It's been around for God knows how many years. We still don't mass test for it. And maybe we underestimate the flu, by the way, because the flu is a very serious virus. But it's shocking to me that a virus we have been trying to eradicate for years has suddenly miraculously disappeared. Now, the argument from some of the doomsdayers out there, those experts, will be, well, you're all social distancing and you're wearing face masks, maybe that's why. Well, no, actually, that's not why, because according to NEFIT and the HSE and our government, the majority of the spread of COVID-19 is actually in the family home. So how do you work that one out then? So flu spreads differently, does it? Oh, okay, flu gets the Lewis or something like that, I don't know. But I just find the story quite bizarre, and why they think people would believe that on face value, statistically may be true, all right, but why they believe it on face value and without an explanation as to why these flu cases are not being defined anymore, I find ridiculous. Ridiculous. But if you want to believe it, you believe it. You far away believe it. The HSE have said it, so it must be true, huh? After all, everything else they tell us is true, isn't it? Isn't it? Did we tell us for 30 years? The health service is a mess. Everything they tell us is true. Of course, you believe everything, don't you? You read. Anyway. Now, speaking of COVID-19, Sky News presenter Kay Burley has agreed to stay off the air for 6 months for a period of reflection after she and other Sky News reporters gathered at a London restaurant at the weekend for her 60th birthday. As a result of an internal review, Sky News has said that Burley agreed to be off air for 6 months. In other words, she was shafted. And political editor Beth Rigby and correspondent Insman Rashid, who were also at the gathering, have agreed to be off the air for 3 months. Now, she said, obviously falling on her sword, we are all in the fight against COVID-19 and that we all have a duty to stick firmly to the rules. It doesn't matter that I thought I was COVID compliant on a recent social event. The fact was, I must be wrong. I made a big mistake and I'm sorry. Some dear friends and colleagues have been pulled into this episode and I regret this enormously. She added that she looks forward to continuing her career with Sky News when she returns. London is in Tier 2, by the way, of England's COVID-19 three-tier system, like our levels, meaning it's not advised to socialise with people who are not your household or support bubble, at home or in a public place. Gatherings of up to 6 people are permitted, outdoors only, in what's called the Rule of 6. It was reported that Burley attended one restaurant with a group of people, and afterwards, and just to clarify, they went to a restaurant, they had 6 people at one table and 4 at another, not 10 people at one table. And afterwards, he allegedly went to a second restaurant. Now, she has admitted that and said the reason she went into a second restaurant was she was caught short as they were walking back to wherever they were going, and she had to go to the bathroom, and that's why she was seen in the second restaurant. Right. Responding to this on Monday, Burley said on Twitter, she said, I want to apologise to you all for an error in judgment on Saturday night. I was enjoying my 60th birthday at a COVID-compliant restaurant. I'm embarrassed to say that later in the evening, I inevitably broke the rules. I had been waiting for a taxi at 11 p.m. to get home. Desperate to go to the loo, I briefly popped into another restaurant to spend a penny. I can only apologise. And she'd been fired. Well, shafted for 6 months. Now, I know a lot of people like to hate Kay Burley. Now, there's also a picture of her online hugging Beth. Now, Beth is her work colleague. They're both wearing face masks, and she's giving her a hug. And I'm assuming Beth consented to the hug, by the way. And if everybody out there is telling me you haven't hugged somebody in the last 8 months, you're all a pack of liars. All right? So she hugged her work colleague at a birthday party. She gave her a hug. I'm pretty sure the work colleague isn't taking her to court for it. I just find this situation now lunacy. Absolute lunacy. One senior executive in Sky said she should have been sacked and sent packing along with others. They knew they were breaking the rules and were public faces on Sky News. A few of us have been saying that these are feeble suspensions and they send out the wrong message and also indicate that Kay Burley is bigger than Sky News. This is just getting ridiculous. You know, I said it to you about the RTE workers. I never believed they should have been fired. I don't even believe they should be sent for a training course. Unless they're thick and they don't understand the rules, there's no need to send them for a training course. The point is that they were human beings and they acted like human beings. And yes, they made a mistake and broke the rules. But to keep firing people for it, I've said it all along about Golfgate. I've said it about every one of them. Yes, they shouldn't have done it. Alan Kelly the other day not wearing his mask, but he was the one to tell everyone else to wear the mask. I've said it all along. Yes, it's wrong. But people are human. We're human beings. And people are losing their jobs because of the curtain twitchers to hide behind the sofa people who are just waiting to take a photograph of somebody breaking the rules. There was about 10 other people outside that restaurant, by the way. Some had no masks on. Are they all going to be fired from whatever jobs or respective jobs they work in? No, Kay Burley will, because she works in Sky News. And you could argue I don't like Kay Burley. Oh, fair enough, you don't like her, that's fine. A lot of people don't like her, some people do like her. She's like Marmite, isn't she? Now, we're out in the Irish Independent where a man was condemning Kay Burley and RT's actions, questioning why the likes of these personalities feel they are free from the rules that the rest of us peasants need to live by. Well, let me be clear about this. The rest of you peasants, as this person put it, are not keeping to the rules. The majority of people in the country are not keeping to all of the rules stringently. Yes, you're trying your best as human beings to stay within the guidelines, and that's the best you can do. And nobody will argue with that. There are times where those rules have to be bent slightly. And we understand that. And now, well, I certainly understand it. And people should understand that. I mean, if she went to a restaurant that was COVID compliant and there was 6 people at one table and 4 people at another, and she popped into another restaurant to go to the toilet. Okay, she hugged her friend outside. She had a mask on her face. You can see it in the picture. Does that really warrant somebody losing their job and having their career tarnished? I don't know. And the question I want to ask you is, should public figures be held to a higher account for their actions? Now, you may argue, of course, that Kay Burley, would be promoting the rules and the guidelines. Like, for example, I've never really promoted them. I've challenged them all the time. RTE would generally promote the rules and guidelines constantly. I mean, don't get me wrong. I tell everybody to adhere to the guidelines because they are what they are and they're there. But, of course, I'll challenge them. And I believe every journalist has a responsibility to challenge everything that the government says. Well, not everything. Obviously, some things are good things that the government say, but we have a responsibility. That's our job, isn't it, to challenge things? I haven't seen much of that in the last 7 months. But the question I want to ask you is, do you believe that public figures, Alan Kelly, people at Golfgate, RTE stars, Kay Burley, do you believe they have a responsibility higher than the rest of us? Should they be held to higher account for their actions? Let me know what you think. The number is 087 188 0008. That's 087 188 0008. Should the staff of RTE, on prime time and news, God, there'd be nobody left in RTE if they did that. Should they chuck them all out? Let me know what you think. The number is 087 188 0008. Colm, you're on Classic Hits. How you doing, Colm?